Hey, and welcome to this second video in the Sass for CSS playlist. In this video, we'll see variables, nestings, and mixins in Sass. I will be using Microsoft Visual Studio Code as the code editor throughout this playlist. So let's begin and create our first Sass file. Name it as first.scss. SCSS is the extension for Sass files. Now let's start with variables. Variables are used to store data or information which you are going to reuse throughout the style sheet. Variables are declared with a dollar symbol. Now let's create a color variable for our primary color and name it color primary and give it a value hash ffb320. This is a nice yellow shade. Now using this variable in your style sheet is as similar to what you do for properties in CSS selectors. Now let's call body selector and give it a background color of color primary. Now the first advantage that Sass variables provide you is the reusability. So what if you want to reuse the same variable, the same color primary for some other properties and for some other selectors? It is simple, just make another selector for h1 and apply it on the same property and give it the value color primary. Another huge advantage that Sass variables provide us comes up in a specific scenario. Let's assume after a lot of development, your team suddenly decides to change the primary color of your project. Now, if you are not using Sass variables, then you will have to go through every selector and every properties to be changed wherever the primary color is used. But if you are using Sass variables like we are using in here, we can simply change the Sass variable value and it will affect the whole style sheet. For instance, if I change this color to red, then the whole style sheet will have red color for this specific variable. Now let's see how we can generate a CSS file from our Sass file. To do this, let's first save our file. Now, if you remember, we installed Sass in our system in the last video. Now, the Sass command will help us to generate the CSS file. Run the Sass command and give it two other values. The first one is the input file, and our input file is here, first.scss. And the next one is where do we want the output. So I'll say main.css. If I run this command, I'll see it has generated main.css for me. This main.css will have the CSS file that we are required for our project. But while doing actual development, if we change our file little bit, like I change the color to ffp320 again and save it, the original file doesn't change. So we have to run the command again. Doing this could be tricky and will take a lot of time. To solve this problem, we can use the watch flag for Sass command. Run Sass watch first.scss space main.css. If you run this command, the Sass will watch for changes on our first.scss file. For instance, if I change it again to ff0000, you'll see the changes are automatically updated in our CSS file. That's pretty much it for the variables. Now let's move on to the nesting. If you notice an HTML file, it has a better hierarchical structure which makes it easy to understand. But CSS lacks it. Nesting is used to nest child selectors inside the parent selectors. In Sass, you can do this the same way in HTML. If you have a parent selector named navbar, and it has some properties like text declaration, none, and then you want a child element of navbar, say ul, and you again want to say text declaration, none, and then you have a list element li for the same navbar, and you have the same child selector li, then you want it to have a color of black, for instance. I'm not using variable here, which is not the standard way of doing it in Sass, but it will do for the learning purpose. Now, if I save this file, you'll see that it creates the CSS for me itself, with navbar as the parent selector and UL and li as the child selector. It becomes visually understandable in SCSS and repetition is reduced. Another powerful feature of Sass is the mixins. Mixins are used when you need a set of CSS properties to be reused throughout your style sheet. A mixin is declared with @mixin and name ahead of it. Let's name this transform and give it properties like transform, rotate 180 degree, and another property, let us say transform for mouse, and same rotate 180 degree. Now, if we want this to be available to our li, we do this by using @include and giving the name of the mixin we want to use. If you save this file, you'll see our li have the CSS properties which were displayed in the mixin. Now you can reuse the same mixin for the body element also, or any other selector that you want. Simply use @include with the name of the mixin and it is done. When you save this file, you'll see the body also have the same CSS properties. Instead of giving a fixed value to the CSS, we can also name the property. You can give any name to this variable. This is just acts like a variable, and replace it wherever the property is to be used, like this. And now when you are calling the mixin, make sure to pass on the property that you want. For instance, I can have a body to rotate 30 degree and I can have the li to rotate 180 degree. Now the mixin is usable with different property values. If you save this and see the CSS file, you'll see the body have a 30 degree rotation while the navbar has a 180 degree rotation. This is pretty much it for this video, and we'll learn more about Sass from the next video. Thanks for watching.